Good afternoon, class. We are here to discuss to you the control, hazards, and risks. So in this lesson, we are going to identify the difference between hazard and risk and the different types of hazard. I am Cyril Tabayoyong
I am Daniel Padilla.
And I am Rena Linyangat.
and we are from Bitiled 3A.
3A.
So our topic for today is to identify hazard and risk in the workplace. Number 2 is evaluate hazard and risk. These are today's learning objectives. First is the student will be able to identify the types of hazard and risk in the workplace. Second is to value the importance of evaluating hazard to reduce risk in the workplace. And lastly, for the third objective, the student will be able to evaluate hazards and create a plan to avoid risk in the workplace. So before we start our class, we prepared uh, we prepared a game called Guess the Picture. So this anyone from the class who can answer this, what this picture all about? Um, yes, Shamir, you're correct. Your answer is wet floor. For the number two, anyone, any volunteer, you can raise your hand. Yes, Mika. Great job. Your answer is object on the floor. It's correct. And for the last picture, yes, Roper. You're correct. The answer is lifting heavy objects. So I want you to know that all the pictures that I've shown you a while ago is all about hazard and risk. So we are now going to differentiate what is hazard and risk. Hazard.
Hello class, good afternoon. Do you know what is hazard? Now, hazard refers to something that has the potential to cause harm. It means any substances, events, or circumstances can constitute hazards. Lahat ng bagay sa paligid natin may hazards at kahit saan ka man magpunta. When their nature would allow them, even just to cause damage to health, life, property, or any other interests of value. Next page. Hazard, any source of danger. Katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, ang hazard ay nakukuha sa anumang uri ng bagay, kahit saang lugar or pangyayari or any circumstances can constitute hazards. Next page.
Um, Hello class, good afternoon. Do you know what is risk? In simple terms, risk is the possibility of something bad happening. Risk involves uncertainty about the effects, implications of an activity with respect to something that humans value, such as health, well-being, wealth, property, or the environment, often focusing on negative, undesirable consequences. Next page. Um, The difference between hazard and risk, hazard it is may cause harm and risk, possibility or bad happening. Hazard plus exposure hazard is equals to risk.
So in this lesson, we will also identify the different types of hazard. Number one is a physical hazard. In this lesson, it states that this is a hazard occurs in our environmental, such as earthquake, flood, typhoon, and landslide. Meaning to say, ang physical hazard, nakukuha natin ito, uh, ito ay nangyayari na natural sa ating paligid. Ito ay hindi natin alam kung kailan mangyayari gaya ng paglintol, hindi natin mapipigilan gaya ng pagbaha, pagbagyo, pagkakaroon ng bagyo, at saka landslide sa iba't ibang lugar. So example ng physical hazard ay ang joint injury tsaka bone fracture. So if if nangyari yung mga earthquake, hindi natin may iwasan yung pagkakaroon ng injury. For example, kapag tamaan ka ng uh, isang malaking bato sa iyong paa, of course, magkaka-injury ka. And for the second types of hazard is biological hazard.
Hello, good afternoon again. Biological hazard. Biological hazard or biohazard is a biological substance that poses a threat to the health of living organisms, primarily to humans. This could include a sample of microorganism, virus, or toxin that can adversely affect human health. A biohazard could also be a substance harmful to the other animals. Um, for example, ang biological hazard ay matatagpuan sa hospital, daycare center, veterinary clinics, laboratories, laundry and cleaning services. And ang biological hazard, for example, kapag nag-take ka ng medicine na may hindi inaasang toxins, wag naman sana, pero it may cause a biological hazard. Yun yung tinatawag nila. And then, may iba pa tayong example ng biological hazard like blood and body fluids, bacteria and viruses, fungi, insect bites, animal and bird dropping, plant toxins, and flood toxins. Yung mga bagay na yan, yes, number three, yung mga bagay na yan, uh, sa biological hazard, maaaring makaapekto sa kalusugan ng tao. Like fungi, kapag, for example, pag tinubuan tayo ng fungi sa paa or kahit sa anumang parts ng ating katawan, di ba nakakaranas tayo ng pamamaga or pamamasa ng sugat na magkokos ng magkaka-infection tayo. So, next page. Chemical hazards. Chemical hazard is non-biological substance that has the potential to cause harm to life or health. Chemicals are widely used in the home and in many other places. Exposure to chemicals can cause acute or long-term detrimental health effects. So, ang maraming example ng chemical hazard like muriatic acid, Clorox, yung mga example na yan, matatagpuan lang natin sa bahay natin. Like muriatic, sa ginagamit sa CR, sa panlinis, then um, uh, delikado 'to sa mga bata kaya itong mga bagay na 'to ay dapat nasa matataas na lugar dahil, kapag natamaan ka ng chemical hazard na 'to talagang mapupuruhan ka at, maapektuhan ang kondisyon ng katawan mo. Next page, ergonomic hazard. Um, ergonomic ergonomic hazard, ah, ergonomic hazards are physical condition that may pose risk of injury to the muscular skeletal system, such as the muscles or ligaments of the lower back, tendons or nerves of the hands, wrists, or bones surrounding the knees, resulting in a musculoskeletal disorder, or occurs when the type of works body position muscular skeletal injuries. So ang ibig sabihin ng ergonomic hazards is um resulting hmm, puwede pa-back up. Cyril Tabayoyong.
So, lastly, psychological hazard. Psychological hazards are aspects of the work environment in the way the work is organized that are associated with mental disorder and or physical injury or illness. When psychological hazards are not effectively managed, they can negatively impact on organizational measures, including productivity, absenteeism, and turnover. How can this hazard affect workers' psychological health? If not managed effectively, psychosocial hazards can impact on workers' psychological and physical health and well-being. It can also adversely affect job satisfaction, organizational commitment, and conflict in the worker's family life. And also, psychological hazard, um, there are some example of psychological hazards, and they are work-related stress, bullying, violence, and lastly, harassment.
To summarize this lesson, um, in this lesson, we discuss about the different types of hazard, and we all now know the difference between hazard and risk. Hazard means it causes harm, and risk are the possible that are the possibility or bad happen. So when we say risk, it is the hazard plus the exposure of hazard is equal to risk. And the five different types of hazard are physical hazard, biological hazard, chemical hazard, ergonomic hazard, and lastly is psychological hazard. So to prevent this kind of risk and hazard, let us be responsible. Number two, identify the hazard. Number three, evaluate possible risks to lessen the risk and avoid accident. Number four, be careful when you are exposed to hazard. And last, let us be responsible. That's it for today, class. And I'm sure that you have already new knowledge that you may apply to avoid this hazard and risk. So, thank you for listening to us. Goodbye.
Thank you.